I did a lot of research and tried to figure out ways to better prepare your body for pregnancies, what you need to do, what you shouldn't do. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. It's your girl, Just Brother Joe. So I wanted to welcome everyone back to my channel and welcome to my new subscribers as well as the old. And thank you guys for sticking around and coming to check out my videos. My previous video, I posted about my journey to motherhood regarding my first miscarriage. And I want to come back now with my second story to motherhood, and just, explain to you guys what happened this time around. So after our first miscarriage, we went ahead and started planning our wedding. At that time, we were looking towards July being our wedding day, our wedding month. July the 27th. However, we ended up pushing it back to August 10th, and that is when we got married on August 10th. And so during that whole process of planning our wedding and getting over the miscarriage, I did a lot of researching. Trying to figure out ways to better prepare your body for pregnancies, what you need to do, what you shouldn't do, what vitamins you should take, and everything like that. And so, I did that for months, pretty much from the time I miscarried, or officially miscarried, to the time that we started trying to conceive again. So I did about 3 months of getting my body prepared for pregnancy. So I did a lot of vitamins, like prenatals. I added maca to my vitamins, and then I also started using OPKs. I actually invested in the Mara app just because of my irregular cycles. I wanted to make sure that if I did get a peak, that I was able to confirm that it was a true peak and not just a peak and it wasn't even, I didn't even ovulate, or didn't have a higher, percentage wise to being able to actually ovulate. We decided to go ahead and start trying to conceive around July period of 2019. We did go back and forth regarding whether or not we wanted to try again so soon before we got married, or if we wanted to just wait until after the wedding. But we did decide that we were going to try, but we wasn't going to necessarily try, but we wasn't going to prevent pregnancy either. So if it happened, it happened. I didn't really mind being pregnant on my wedding day, especially as long as the pregnancy was viable. I really didn't have any concerns with that. However, my husband did have a little, he didn't really want me to be pregnant on our wedding day, but we went ahead and did everything, continued to plan the wedding, finalize information, and during that those 2 months before we got married, I did not get pregnant, which is okay. I was still learning my body and everything like that, so I didn't really mind. So after we got married, I ended up ovulating later on in August, towards the end of the month, and so we went ahead and tried that cycle, and I actually conceived. The funny thing about that is, although we was trying, I didn't think I was pregnant, and I didn't think it was going to happen so quickly. However, a supervisor at my job, my supervisor at the time, she actually suggested that I took a pregnancy test because she's apparently noticed that my attitude had changed again, I guess it did when I was first pregnant back in February. And so she was like, "Yeah, I think you're pregnant." And I'm looking at her like, "What do you mean? Like, even if I was, it's way too soon to even know." And then two, I'm like, at that time it was 100 degrees, like 108 degrees in outside out here in Southern California, and my job, we don't have AC, so our on the floor main floor is not temperature regulated. And so I'm looking at her like, dude, it's hot as hell in here. I have every right to feel dizzy and fatigued and just exhausted. Like, what do you mean that you pregnant and you should go take a test and blah 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 this and that? So I'm looking at her like, whatever, get out my face. So so like that day, I guess the reason why it also came up is because I said I was dizzy, I was like fatigued and lightheaded, and so I was like, I can't work anymore. Like I'm done. Like it's 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm like, it's time for me to go home, you know. And so I end up, she ended up giving me 2 electrolyte popsicles. And so I ate that, and then the rest of the shift, she just had me pretty much relax and 5S, just busy work to keep me on the shift for the time to go home. And so when I went home, I decided to take my shower and relax and do all of that good stuff. And I also decided to take a test. So I took the test and I just dismissed it, mainly because I felt like I was seeing things. The line was so faint that it was just like you blink and it's gone type thing. And I'm like, no, I see color on the line on the little test strip, but I didn't feel like it was actually positive, so I just threw it in the trash and like, no, I'm not gonna worry about this. So the next day I went to work. I'm like, yeah, so I took a test and I don't know, I think I'm seeing things, but I don't know. And so she's looking at me like, and so and so she was like, okay, just let me know what happens, or if you're pregnant, you're pregnant. If you're not, you're not. Whatever, just let me know. So I believe 2 more days, or I either test the next day or 2 days later. I believe it probably was the next day, and the line was darker. It was still a very, very faint line, but it was noticeable this time without squinting or anything like that. And I'm looking like, okay. And so as the days went on, I continued to test, and the line just kept getting darker and darker. And I was like, lo and behold, I really am pregnant. Like, she was on the money. Like, what the hell, And so because of my job switching over our medical insurance, I no longer had my primary doctor that I had with my first pregnancy, so I wasn't able to go to her to confirm my pregnancy. I had to go to a local clinic in our area who accepted our insurance, and so I went to them and took a test. Unfortunately, it was negative. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I done took 5 or 6 tests so far, and every last one has been positive. Every last one has been, got consistently darker and darker. So what do you mean your pregnancy test is negative? Like, no. And so she basically explained to me that their pregnancy tests require a higher HSG level, and that is not as sensitive as home pregnancy tests. So I'm like, okay, I guess, that makes sense, But she was like, you can come back either tomorrow or the next day, and we can do a repeat test and see, if it ends up being positive then. So I ended up going back 2 days later, took the test, and it was positive. I finally got the positive pregnancy test through the local clinic, and now it was more like important that I find an OB. So having this new insurance, not knowing exactly who to go to, where to call, I was looking for maybe about 2 to 3 days looking for an OB, calling all the different places, and everyone saying yes, they take our coverage or they don't take our coverage. And it was just a mess. I was like, I've never been with a medical provider or insurance before that was so difficult on finding who's in their network in my life. So I was frustrated. Like, so calling on the different places, and getting the run around about, yes, we cover it, or we don't cover it, we in the network, we're not, and they all are listed in network underneath the medical provider that I had. So I'm looking like, what do you mean, like, that you show that you are covered, or that you are in network on their website, but you're saying verbally, like by mouth, that you're not? Like, what do you mean? Something's not right. So that was one tick off regarding our medical insurance that I had to get rid of because of that. I had a friend who used to work with the medical insurance that I had through my job. So I ended up hitting her up and like, hey, I found out I was pregnant. She knew about my first miscarriage, so she knew, the urgency of wanting to get checked out and making sure everything was okay, before it got too far along. So she knew the urgency that I had regarding wanted to be checked out as soon as possible to see exactly, what's going on in my body, and making sure everything was okay, my levels was okay, my hormones was okay, all of that good stuff, to make sure that you have a viable pregnancy. And so she ended up finding me a OB, and she basically gave me the number to call, and I set up the appointment the following week after calling them. And so by this time, it's now September, I believe 12th or the 14th, when I finally had my appointment. She gave me an ultrasound, which she was kind of, she was a little hesitant to give me the ultrasound, but she knew, I made my concern valid. So she basically was like, okay, I give you an ultrasound. We didn't really see much of anything. I may post it in the video somewhere around here, so you can see, basically what the only ultrasound that I have. So I, that's the only thing I have regarding that pregnancy. They confirmed the pregnancy with my OB. Everything seemed to be okay. My levels was doubling, which I'm not 100% on if they were doubling correctly or anything like that, but they was doubling. They was increasing like they should, but probably on the lower end. So my HSG was doubling accordingly from what I understood. But by a week after, or 2 weeks after that appointment, I started spotting. I wasn't necessarily concerned with the spotting, but I was more concerned about how I was spotting. It had like little tissue particles in it, and that was alarming to me. And so I ended up going to the emergency room, because with our insurance, most of the clinics only are open Monday through Friday, and so, or the medical offices are only open Monday through Friday, and if you needed to be seen on the weekends, you pretty much was SOL. So I went to the emergency room.